Have you ever been called lazy, disorganized, or away with the fairies so many times that you started to believe it? But what if I told you that your difficulty starting a simple task, that habit of leaving projects halfway through, or that feeling that your mind never switches off, has nothing to do with a lack of willpower? The truth is, millions of adults live with ADHD symptoms their entire lives without ever receiving a diagnosis, carrying a weight of guilt that was never theirs to begin with. ADHD in adults is one of the most underestimated mental health conditions, and also one of the most misunderstood. We're not talking about a hyperactive child who can't sit still in a classroom. We're talking about you. Intelligent, creative, full of potential, yet stuck in patterns that feel like self-sabotage, when in reality, they are neurological. In this video, you're going to recognize behaviors you've always thought were just your quirks, and maybe for the first time understand where they come from and what to do about them. You know that feeling of spending the entire day getting ready to start something, only to finally get going when the deadline is right on top of you? That's not laziness. It's your brain crying out for dopamine. In ADHD, the reward system works differently. Without real urgency or pressure, dopamine levels simply don't rise enough to kick things into motion. So the task just sits there, staring at you, demanding attention. The curious and almost ironic thing is that the same person who procrastinated on a presentation for 2 weeks can suddenly produce something impressive in just 3 hours before the deadline. It's not luck. It's not a miracle. It's an ADHD brain finally running on the one fuel it recognizes: urgency-driven adrenaline. The problem is, living like this comes at a cost. Stress, poor sleep, and that constant feeling of always being in firefighting mode. And speaking of reactions that feel out of control, if you've ever caught yourself interrupting someone mid-sentence, not out of rudeness, but because the thought overflowed before you could stop it, then you know exactly what I mean. Impulsivity in ADHD isn't arrogance or disrespect. It's a breakdown in inhibitory control, the brain's ability to hold back a response while someone else is still speaking. The break exists. It just responds late. What makes this even more frustrating is that, most of the time, the person with ADHD realizes what they've done, but it's already too late. Then comes the wave of guilt. Why did I do that again? And a quiet cycle of shame that very few people around you truly see. A simple technique that helps is creating a small internal ritual. Take a breath and mentally repeat, "Let them finish," before speaking. It sounds basic, but for a brain wired for impulsivity, that 1-second pause can completely change a conversation. And speaking of strong starts that don't always end as planned, the excitement at the beginning is real, genuine, intense. When a new idea appears, the ADHD brain releases a generous dose of dopamine. Everything feels possible. You plan, research, and begin with an energy that impresses everyone around you. But as the project turns into routine, into obligation, that initial spark slowly fades. What once felt like passion starts to feel like weight. And that's when the drawer of unfinished projects starts growing, along with the harsh narrative that you never finish anything. But understanding that this is actually a neurological drive for novelty, not a character flaw, already changes your relationship with it. One effective strategy is breaking long projects into micro goals with real rewards along the way. This artificially recreates the stimulation your brain is constantly seeking. And who would have thought that the same brain that abandons routine tasks can spend hours completely absorbed in something it truly finds fascinating? If someone has ever called you for dinner and you simply didn't hear because you were completely immersed in a game, a project, a series, or a deep dive into research, you've experienced hyperfocus. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of ADHD. How can someone with lack of focus stay locked in for 4 hours straight? The answer is simple. The problem was never the ability to focus. It was always the regulation of that focus. When the stimulus is strong enough, attention doesn't just engage, it goes to the extreme. Hyperfocus can be a superpower when directed well, but it can also be a silent trap. You lose track of time, you forget to eat, to reply to messages, to sleep. And the next day, you wake up feeling like your own brain swallowed you whole. The key isn't to fight it, but to learn how to use it intentionally. Set alarms, schedule forced breaks.